This is one of my favorite places in Wilmington. That is the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. And the river, the historic downtown is right over there. I come down here at night and the sunset is insane. It's gorgeous. And the huge, we have the port right down there, and these huge ships just full of, I have no idea what they're full of, but a whole lot of it. And the tugboats are over there, and I've gotten to go on the tugboats before, and it's just, I just love being downtown Wilmington. But the bridge is unique, and you can probably hear it, but it has this very distinct roar, and when your tires hit it, it gets so loud in your car. Can you hear that? The whole bridge just like has this sound, and I've only ever heard it on our bridge. But anytime I travel, or even just being away during the day, when my tires hit that bridge and I hear that roar, I know that I'm home. And I can't tell you, it is the best sound you'll ever hear. I had to move away from Wilmington for about 3 years because of a work contract, and every Friday I drove back 4.5 hours every single weekend for 3 years because I love being here and it is my home, and I would just, the whole 4.5 hours just to hear the sound of my tires. When I drove back this past fall, after being away for 6 months, and when the van's tires hit that, I mean, I burst into tears. I'm about to burst into tears now. Anyway, not bridge related, but it kind of feels like the United States of America is about to burst at the seams right now. As if things weren't that bad or bad enough with COVID, our cities are on fire, and I think people were already stressed to their max as it is, and now it's unmanageable for a lot of different reasons. People losing their jobs and their homes, and we have civil unrest to the nth degree. It's awful. And so I'm gonna actually, this will end on a positive note if I can get there, because I think we need a positive story, and I've not done some of my on-the-road stories, but I actually have one for you, and I'm not going to script it in one of my elaborate productions. I'm just going to riff it, or just do it off the cuff. When I came back this fall and then got the Wagon, now when I bought the Wagon, I knew she's not nimble, she's a big bitch, and she's dependent on being in an RV park because a generator in a fifth wheel is $5,000, so she has to be plugged in. So I knew all that, but in the van I had traveled so hard so fast and really wore myself out that I thought, you know what, for this season I'll go to somewhere and like plug in and then explore for like a month and then go somewhere else, and I'll do that, I'll try that. Because I really need, especially after living in the car, like I needed a sense of house. And so that was my idea. And then I got the Wagon and I came back, and I thought because it was the winter that I was going to have the pick of the lot for RV parks here. I mean, who comes down to the beach in the winter? A lot of people. That's the answer. So all the RV parks were full, and so I had to get kind of a, illegal parking spot. And I thought that was okay, because what I want to do is I want to get land, and I want to build my own little RV park, and I want to have cows, and then I'll travel when I want, but I'll have a home base here. And again, all these goals that you have, how it's going to be. And I couldn't find land, and nothing was working out. And so I was in the illegal parking spot for way longer than I thought I'd be. But, the thing about an illegal parking spot is that you can't hang out outside. So you've probably noticed in a lot of my videos that the blinds were always drawn, and I never did anything outside, and because I had to hide in it. I had to act like I wasn't there. And so that alone got really claustrophobic. But I kept telling I'm gonna find the land, I'll find it, no, it's just me. And weeks turned into months, and then COVID hit. COVID hit and wiped out most of my business that I had lined up. You already know that YouTube has pulled the earnings on this channel, and they've also somehow erased all the back pay that I was due. And then I was locked in that tin can all, at the same time. So I know I'm not alone in this, is that there's just a lot of grief and mourning that goes on when all your big plans suddenly disappear and there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not been fun, if I can be honest. And, I did a couple more Roman rants than I usually do. And can I just say, the Roman rants are meant to make you laugh. They are not meant to be taken seriously. Some of you act like I'm sitting in your living room talking directly at you. They're meant to be a sarcastic poke at the world. I mean, because, what else can you do right now besides get upset? And I think we've all been upset enough. Anyway, so for all those feelings I heard... The last one I did was about the gym, and, gosh, some people got so upset about that. Oh, you don't care about other people, just the gym. And I thought, again, it's meant to be sarcastic, but I thought it's not about the gym. It's not about the workout. It's about what that activity represents. And we all have different ways of coping with COVID and everything else going on in the world. Some people crack open a bottle of wine at the end of the day. Some people do harder drugs. Some people read. Some people meditate. Mine is exercise, and that's always been my go-to. I have worked out 7 days a week since I was 14 years old, so a couple years ago. And it's just, if I'm moving and my blood is flowing and I listen to music the whole time, and so I get ideas about how I'm going to write a story or how I'm going to tell something, and I mean, everything I do creatively is during that period. I get all my ideas when my body is moving and I'm listening to music. So, yeah, it was about the workout, but it was also that the way that I cope with stress is gone. So if all your coping mechanisms are gone, and your business is gone, and you are literally hiding in an RV, it's not a pretty picture. Anyway, so here's where I'll tell you a nice story. I'm not looking for sympathy, I'm just sharing in what is, because I find that anytime I actually admit to other people that things are not going well, they will also say that, it's not going well for them either. And so that makes everything less lonely. Because I think on YouTube, people put up a big front that everything is great, and they put up all these motivational videos, and I think they're a lot of times a really nice, shiny way of not saying how things truly are. So last weekend, it was Memorial Day weekend, and I love Memorial Day. I mean, usually, we have a service here with one of our veterans cemeteries, and everyone's out at the beach, and so it's the start of the summer, and I was miserable. I was locked in that RV, looking for work, trying to find work, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And it was just dreadful. So I told myself, I usually spend this summer driving around, exploring with my camera and taking pictures, which is my favorite thing to do. And I had not done it at all because I was so miserable. People think that when you're having a hard time, you should just go do something. And I try to remind them that when you're having a hard time, your motivation is usually in the bucket. So I made a deal with myself that if I got in the car, I had no interest in doing so, but if I got in the car with my camera bag and I was not allowed to come back or have breakfast, so I would be really hungry and motivated, hopefully, but I couldn't come back until I had found something worth shooting and thereby found a way to make my day worth having gotten out of bed for. Because it felt like the past couple weeks, it was hard to justify my existence on this planet. So I threw the camera bag in the car and I started driving, and 3 hours later, I had gone through all kinds of counties and back roads in southeast North Carolina, and I had not found a damn thing, because I've shot a lot of it. And I was so hungry. Oh God. I thought about looking through the trash bag in the car to find something to eat. But I was determined, unless I made that day worth living, that I was not going to go home. And about 3.5 hours in, that's when I saw it. This stretch of abandoned antique trucks and cars that I had never seen before. And I just slammed on the brakes and whipped right around. And I mean, it was just like this. It's called a boneyard. You know, all these abandoned antique trucks with all this rust. And let me tell you something. When you're a paparazzi and you like shooting old abandoned structures, rust is a beautiful thing. When you are a homeowner or car owner, it is not a beautiful thing. So I pull over on the side of the road. I have no idea where I am. I have no cell service because I am truly in the middle of nowhere. And I jump out and I can see these guys in the way back in a pickup truck, and they're kind of meddling in the metal. And I go hopping over there. And I said, you know, hi, my name is Casey, and I was just wondering if I could take some photos of your trucks. And they said, oh, these aren't ours. I said, well, whose are they? And they said, they're Betty Ann's. I said, a woman named Betty Ann owns an abandoned antique truck boneyard? Oh, yeah. She's an elderly lady. Of course she is. Of course she is. Betty Ann's boneyard. And they said, well, you could probably take photos. So at this point, you know, I have a feeling based on where I am, I could probably just get my shots and then leave. But I was curious to know what an elderly woman named Betty Ann was doing with all these trucks. So I said, well, where can I find her? And they said, oh, well, she's in the way back by the burn pile. Now, here, I should stop and say that when you are a very petite female, you don't know where you are, you haven't told anybody where you're going, it is not a good idea to meet anybody in the woods at a burn pile, ever. I still went. I go tromping through this. I mean, and there is stuff everywhere. It's not really hoarding. There's just this menagerie of things that have collected up on this property. And I get to the burn pile, and from behind the burn pile comes whipping around the corner in a golf cart this teeny tiny woman. She had to have been smaller than I am. And she comes right over. And I said, hi, my name is Casey. I really like your trucks. Oh, yeah, they're my husband's. A thick southern drawl. And she said, well, just get in. And I'm like, pardon? You know, you don't take rides from strangers. Yeah, just get in. So I get in this woman's go-kart. And she tells me that her husband, George, who she calls Georgie, when they got married 25 years ago, George came with a dowry. And that was his antique truck collection. And he had all these dreams to restore each and every one of them. And I said, oh, he talked you into that, huh, Betty Ann? Oh, yeah, he was gonna. So over time, their property became a parking lot for all of George's dreams. And I mean, really, the whole property is covered in these antique trucks. And there was always going to be one day that George was going to restore each and every one of them. So Betty Ann tolerated the trucks. And then he died 2 years ago. And for those 2 years, Betty Ann kept every single one of those trucks and just about everything else on that property exactly how George had left it. And she hadn't touched a stitch of it. Which we all do in trauma, right? Which a lot of us are experiencing now, is you just feel afraid or unable to touch or do anything. You become inert. You know, time went on, and she's not able to restore those trucks herself, and Betty Ann's house needs a lot of work, and George isn't there to help. And she is not capable of handling that big of a project herself. Anyway, she told me that part of the story, and then she was busy with all these guys were there, you know, picking apart the trucks and looking at stuff, and I said, I'm gonna go get my photos, and then I'll meet you back here, okay? And so I let her handle business, and I ran around like a lunatic in that boneyard. I mean, I was sweating and crawling over things, and I probably needed 8 tetanus shots by the time I was done. But everything was so beautiful, and it was all a part of my community's history. There was a recreation van from Bladen County that is just ancient, and I think at one time those recreation vans were used, they put books on them, and you could as a kid get a book off the van. I mean, all of it, and the signs, the old businesses that once owned them, and their emblems. I mean, I was doing exactly what I love to be doing, which is sweating and I get all stinky, but I'm taking pictures, and I get up close and look at them, and you can just see the art and everything. And so I was there for like 2 hours and completely exhausted myself. Plus, I was getting kind of dizzy because I had overheated and I hadn't eaten or drank anything yet. So when I was finished, and the guys there are all like think I'm, a complete nut job at that point, but whatever. So at the end of the day, the sun is setting and I'm thoroughly exhausted. And I go to find Betty Ann, and she's inside of her home. I don't know this woman. And she said, well, come in. And I said, I don't know that I should. I'm dirty. I don't want to mess up your house. And she said, like any good Southern woman, she said, oh, come on in. So there I am in this woman's house, who I have no idea who she is, and she doesn't know who I am. And she gives me a full tour of the house. She shows me all the work that needs to be done. And she's telling me about how hard it's been to sell all those trucks because people are trying to scam her and take advantage of her because she's an older woman and she's alone. Relatable. And then we went and we sat down in the back of the house, and we just were talking about life. And I told her a little bit about mine, and she told me about how much she loved George and how they met and what their marriage was like, and totally serendipitously. And as I started to kind of press the issue that I needed to get going, she said, I have a favor to ask you. And then this is a sign that you've been around maybe too much negativity in your life, but I almost braced myself for her to, I don't know, ask me to do all the work to sell them or something. I don't know, something not terribly positive. And she said, I need someone to take my photo. Now, I had wanted to take her picture with the trucks, but I thought she'd balk at the idea. So I said, you want me to take your photo? I'm not very good at taking photos of people. Truth be told, and I've said this a lot before, I usually refuse to take photos of people. Buildings, old things, landscapes, fine. People show up late, and here's my biggest issue with taking photos of people, is that people always want to represent something other than what is. Now, I know we all want to look good on a photo. I get that. I so get that. Hell, I worked in TV. Like, we put on so much makeup you couldn't recognize us. I get it. But the degree of manipulation that goes into most portrait photography, that's not who you are. And I really like authenticity. And I think that's some of the issue I have with a lot of channels on YouTube, and it's certainly my issue with portrait photography is, I certainly know and can point out all my flaws, and I have plenty of people on the internet who like to point them out for me. But when I look at other people, I don't see those things. I see the story of who they are as a person. And so when I'm asked to manipulate a photo, I feel like I'm not telling a true story of who they are. So I usually refuse to do it. And so I started to go down that same road of explaining to her why I don't take photos of people. And she said, no, you don't understand. I have to have a photo of myself because I don't have a current one. And she said, I'm at the part of my life where I realize this is not going to go on forever. And I don't want my obituary photo to be a photo from 25 years ago. And I kind of laughed and I said, Betty Ann, I got to be honest with you. Most people want that. They want the photo of their younger self. They want the dolled up photo. And she said, no, that's not who I am now. And where I am now is closer to where I'll be when I need that photo. So Betty Ann didn't want the glossy portrait photo. And she didn't want to use a photo from when she was 20 or 30 or 40 or any time other than where she was around that season of her life. And I don't know anything more authentic than that. So she wanted me to take her photo as she is right now. And with no filters, no fancy light, just who she is right now. She didn't want to get all dolled up. She didn't want to go somewhere exotic. She didn't want to dress up in a white shirt and jeans at the beach like everybody else does. She just wanted a photo of herself. It was the most beautiful request. I'm gonna cry. It was just the most beautiful request I think I've ever had for what my talent is meant for. So I took all those photos of her trucks and I glossed them up as much as I could, and I put them online for her with a very strong warning that I would be filtering the requests to purchase them, and that if anybody messed with her when they went out to see the trucks, that I would give them a Viking funeral on a pyre on her burn pile. We didn't take the photo that day because she wasn't ready, but I certainly planned to take it. But it was just a really unexpected change of events from being quite miserable trapped in that RV to then, going out and seeing what you can find. Which has always kind of been my approach to things. It's not really having that much of a plan, seeing what happens. That said, I kind of need a plan right now because I have nowhere to keep the war wagon. So it's been a bit frantic, and I think we've come up with a solution on Patreon. Actually, I know we've come up with a solution on Patreon because we really have some incredible people on there who also believe in authenticity and in having a mission to see what's out there. So I hope you enjoyed that story of Betty Ann. Her trucks are still for sale. If you would like to buy one, you may message me and I will screen the piss out of you before giving you the address to the trucks. I hope she sells each and every one of them. She needs to get the work done on the house. And also, she told me that for the first time ever she got to travel recently, her kids bought her a first-class ticket to Hawaii. And she just thought that that was the greatest thing that ever happened in the world. And I again, relatable, because I flew first class for the first time in my life this year. I just thought that I was royalty after that. But she said that she wants to get in one more trip before her time here on Earth is over. And so I kind of find it to be my duty now to make sure that she gets the photo that she wants and she gets to take that damn trip. So we really need to sell these trucks. In the meantime, I'm going to have to head over that bridge for a while we're going to do some exploring, and we're going to try to shake this cloud of darkness that is COVID and everything else going in the world by hopefully running into more Betty Anns. And then I'll be back here for a bit, and hopefully we'll feel a lot more grounded during that time. You know, when I was on the road during the summer, it was really difficult, and my favorite place to be is at the beach here downtown by the river in the spring and summer. And last year I was on the road, and so I felt kind of like I got robbed of my favorite spot. So I was determined to be here for this portion before heading out again. And I've been terribly resentful about the whole COVID thing because I felt like I got robbed of all that once more. So we're just gonna go do that. We're gonna go throw the camera bag in the car and head over the bridge, and I will probably cry again like a baby when my tires hit the bridge going the other way. But I know that it's not terribly long before they get to come back. So let's just go see what happens. And I hope that you get to meet some Betty Anns in your travels. I'll also tell you that the RV park situation is pretty chaotic right now across the country. Every single one of our parks is booked full. The states started reopening. People got RVs, ran wild. One of the parks here is now $1,200 a month. And it's not even that nice. So all travel tips, a beautiful story about Betty Ann, and you got to see the Ginger Ninja shed some tears, so I'm not completely a soulless ginger. All right, well, I gotta go wash the Scion because it's getting put into storage, and pack and get myself in order because we have another adventure to take, and I hope that the stories that we start telling from here on out are a whole lot more positive and full of serendipity than what's gone on the past couple months, because I can't think of anything more that people need right now than to smile and laugh. And damn it, we're gonna go find wherever that is. Bye, weirdos.